All right, let's jump right in. For the first time in about 8 years, Florida got a real hard freeze. And while for most of us that just meant finding a warmer jacket, for livestock producers, this cold snap turned their beautiful green pastures into a really serious and kind of hidden danger. So today, we're going to break down what exactly happens on the morning after that freeze.
So you look out your window, and your whole field is brown. It looks, well, dead. And that seems pretty obvious, right? But the actual problem isn't just that the grass is dead. The real question is, what's the danger that brown field now poses to the animals that have to eat it? And that's the real mystery we're going to unpack here. For nearly a decade, producers in Florida have had it pretty easy with mild winters. But this year, that lucky streak came to a grinding halt. A hard freeze rolled through, and practically overnight, those pastures that were the main food source for cattle went from looking lush and green to a kind of burned brown color.
And the timing for this, it was just the absolute worst. We're talking about a time when a lot of cows have just given birth. They're in peak lactation, and their newborn calves are growing like weeds. On top of that, the cold itself forces both the moms and the babies to burn way more energy just to stay warm. So just when their nutritional needs are skyrocketing, their entire food supply just completely collapses. It's a perfect storm.
Okay, so to really understand the danger here, we've got to look past that brown color and zoom way in, down to the microscopic level. So let's get into the science of it. What is actually happening inside a single blade of grass when the temperature drops below freezing?
The very first thing that happens is just catastrophic. It's called cell rupture. As the water inside the plant cells freezes, it forms these incredibly sharp ice crystals. I want you to think of them like millions of tiny little knives, just piercing and shredding the cell walls from the inside out. And this kind of damage, it's devastating, and there's no coming back from it. It's totally irreversible. So, with all those cell walls completely shattered, the plant has no way to hold on to its moisture anymore. All the water just leaks out, the leaves dry up, and they die. This process is called desiccation, and it's what gives the whole pasture that classic brown kind of burned look that we see from a distance.
And at the very same time, the plant is in a desperate fight for its life. It starts draining its own emergency battery, all the stored sugars and carbohydrates it keeps in its root system, just to try and survive the cold. By the time the weather warms up, those energy reserves are completely gone, leaving nothing behind to fuel any kind of regrowth.
So let's just put it all together real quick. The freeze basically launches this fourfold attack. First, it ruptures the cell walls. Second, the leaves dry out and die. Third, all energy production, photosynthesis, it just stops. And fourth, the plant's emergency energy reserves are totally wiped out. The grass you see standing in that field is, for all intents and purposes, fundamentally broken. And this is where things get really deceptive. A cattleman might look out at a field full of standing brown grass and think, okay, great, there's still plenty of stuff out there for them to eat. But what looks like a feast is actually a nutritional trap. It's a very dangerous illusion.
And this brings up a really critical difference we have to understand. On one hand, you have preserved hay. That's grass that was intentionally cut at its nutritional peak and then carefully stored to lock in all that good stuff. But frozen forage, that is something else entirely. It's basically just a field of dead, decaying plant matter that's been left standing. It's not a pasture anymore. It's just low-quality roughage.
Just look at this chart. It shows the nutritional collapse in detail. That crude protein that's so important for milk production, it just plummets. The grass becomes so tough and fibrous that a cow's digestive system can't even extract what few nutrients are left. The energy value from carbs? Gone. And to top it all off, it doesn't even taste good, so the cattle want to eat less of it anyway. It's a total system failure.
So the best way to think about it is this. That frozen grass is basically nutritional junk food. It can fill up a cow's stomach, which makes it look like she's eating just fine, but it provides almost zero actual value. And that's exactly why producers will suddenly see their cattle losing weight for no apparent reason, even when it looks like they've been grazing all day long.
Okay, so the problem is clear, it's serious, and it's deceptive. So what do you do about it? Let's walk through a simple 4-step plan for how to respond in this kind of crisis. But before we get to the actual steps, this quote really changes how you should think about the whole situation. The best producers, they know they aren't just raising cattle. They're grass farmers first. Their animals are simply the tools they use to harvest their crop. And right now, their crop has failed. So here's the immediate action plan. Step 1, you have to evaluate the quality of what's out there, not just the quantity. Step 2, bring in supplements to fill all those nutritional gaps we just talked about. Step 3, watch your animals like a hawk for any signs of weight loss. And finally, step 4, give that pasture a break. Don't let the cattle graze it down to the dirt, because it'll never have a chance to recover.
Let's just focus on step 2 for a second, because supplementing wisely is key. This isn't just about throwing more food out there. It's a strategic process. You start by adding protein, which actually helps the cow's main stomach, the rumen, to break down all that tough, low-quality grass. Then, and only then, do you slowly introduce energy sources so you don't shock their system. It's about feeding smarter, not just feeding more.
Of course, an emergency response is only half the battle, right? The real goal here is to turn this year's frantic reaction into next year's solid strategy. The idea is to make a weather event like this a manageable challenge, not a full-blown crisis.
And this really shows you that preparation is a year-round job. It all starts in the spring, making sure your soil is fertile so you can grow healthier, more resilient grass. Then, through the summer and fall, you're sourcing and storing that high-quality hay. By the time fall rolls around again, you should already have a winter feeding plan locked in, ready to go before the first cold snap even hits.
When it's all said and done, it comes down to this. The science tells us that these tropical grasses are vulnerable and that a freeze just destroys their nutritional value. By understanding that and by preparing for it with a real plan, producers can turn what could be a major weather disaster into just another manageable challenge on the farm.
And that really leaves us with a final question, one that applies to all of us, way beyond the pasture. We all face unexpected challenges. The weather is always going to be unpredictable. So the real question is, when that challenge comes for you, is your plan a well-thought-out strategy, or is it just a gamble?